ಹಲೋ ಮುರಳಿಯಣ್ಣ, ಐ ಮ್ಯೂಟೆಡ್ ಯು. ನಿಮ್ದು ಇಕೋ ಬರ್ತುಂಟು ತುಂಬಾ.
Rakesh, we are live on YouTube, okay?
Okay.
I connected to my phone first.
ಲಿಂಕ್ ಒಂದು ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಬಿಡ್ತೇನೆ.
Sure.
ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಸ್ವಾಗತ. ಸುಮಾರು ಜನ ಜಾಯಿನ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದೀರಿ. ತಮ್ಮ ಪರಿಚಯ ಹೇಳಿಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತಿದ್ರೆ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ನೀವೆಲ್ಲಿಯವರು, ಏನು ಓದ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ, ಅಥವಾ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಏನು ಓದ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇನೆ. ಮದುವೆ ನಾನು ರಾಕೇಶ್ ಅಂತ, ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಸಭಾದ ಕೆರಿಯರ್ ಡೆವಲಪ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕಮಿಟಿಯ ಕನ್ವೀನರ್, ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಮಾಡರೇಟರ್ ಕೂಡ. ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆ ಸುಹಾಸ್ ಹಾಗೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು 25 ಜನ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಜಾಯಿನ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದೀರಾ. ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ವೆಲ್ಕಮ್. ನಾವೊಂದು 3-4 ನಿಮಿಷ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡುವ ಈಗ.
ರಾಕೇಶ್, ನಾನೇ ಶುರು ಮಾಡ್ತೇನೆ. ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ, ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು ಮುರಳೀಧರ್ ಅಂತ, ಬ್ಯಾಂಗ್ಳೂರು ಬಾನಸವಾಡಿ. ಸಭಾದ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಕಮಿಟಿದು ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸಿಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಇದೆ ನನ್ನ ಹತ್ರ.
ಹಲೋ, ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ. ಡಿ.ಸಿ. ರಾವ್.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಸರ್, ಮುರಳೀಧರ್.
ನಮಸ್ತೆ ಅಂಕಲ್.
ನಮಸ್ತೆ. ನಮಸ್ತೆ. ಎಲ್ಲ ವೆರೈಟಿ ಅರೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ ಮುರಳೀಧರ್ ಅವರೇ?
ಇಲ್ಲ, ಇದು ಕಮಿಟಿ ಅವರು ಡಿಸೈಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಸೊ ಒಂದು
ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ರಿಯಲಿ ನೈಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಕಮಿಟಿ ಟು ಇನ್ ಡೈವರ್ಸ್.
ಬೇರೆ ಟೈಮಿಂಗ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ವೆರಿ ಗುಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲ ಅಂಕಲ್? ಬೇಸಿಕಲಿ ಈಗ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ PUC ಎಲ್ಲ ರಿಸಲ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬಂದಿದೆ, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಎ ಗುಡ್ ಟೈಮಿಂಗ್.
ಯು ಆರ್ ರೈಟ್.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಮುರಳಿ ಅಣ್ಣ. ರಾಜೇಶ್.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ರಾಜೇಶ್.
ಹಲೋ ರಾಜೇಶ್.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಅಂಕಲ್.
ಹೇಗಿದ್ದೀರಾ?
ಹಾ, ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ.
ನಮಸ್ತೆ.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ರಾಕೇಶ್.
ಹಾಯ್. 32 ಜನ ಆದ್ರು. ನಾನು maybe wait for 2 more minutes.
ಹಾಂ 2-3 minutes 7 ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ.
ಓಕೆ.
Muralian, I think what are we planning to do in next few things? ನೀವು ಒಂದು highlight ಏನಾದ್ರು ಕೊಡಬಹುದು?
ಯಾವುದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ?
ನಮ್ದು next webinars, right? What is that we are in thinking, right? We had 2-3 items that we were thinking, right?
Couple of course, ಒಂದು doctors group ಇಂದ they were thinking about an seminar.
Psychological.
Psychological issue ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರು ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ರಾಮಮೂರ್ತಿ ಅವರು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ದಾಗೆ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಒಂದು ಗ್ರೂಪ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಉಂಟು. ಒಂದು 3-4 ಜನ ಸೈಕ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ಗೆಲ್ಲ ಸೇರಿ ಒಂದು ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ ಮಾಡುವಂತ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇಟ್ ಮೈಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ವೀಕ್ ಅಥವಾ ವೀಕ್ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ವೀಕ್ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಸಾರಿ, ವೀಕ್ ಆಫ್ಟರ್. ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್, ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ವೀಕ್ ಗಣೇಶ ಅವರು, ಸೊ ವೀಕ್ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅಫ್ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ವಿದ್ಯಾಧರ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ವಿ ವರ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಥಿಂಕಿಂಗ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ಸಮ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಅದರ್
on the engineering related thing. We were talking about having one session from one of our eminent lecturers who is in Manipal, Ramya Anta. I think we were planning to do something on that side also. So we have some exciting webinars coming up again on diverse subjects.
True.
We can start 7, I think.
ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡುವಲ್ಲ? ಹೌದು, 40 ಕನೆಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು 5 ಕನೆಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಉಂಟು ಸದ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ. ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಅಪ್ ಟು 10, ಬಟ್ ಸ್ಲೋಲಿ ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅದು ಕೂಡ. ಎನಿವೇಸ್, ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡುವ. ನಮಸ್ತೆ ಸರ್ವೇಭ್ಯ, ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಸ್ವಾಗತ. ವೆಲ್ಕಮ್ ಟು ಉದ್ಯೋಗ ದೀಪಿಕಾ, our monthly webinar series. Today's resource person is Suhas S, who is a final year BTech student in IIT Madras. Welcome, Suhas. So let me just iterate the ground rules that we have for the webinar. Please stay muted during the presentation. Presentation na koneyalli namige question answers kellikke iruttade, mute ಮಾಡಿ ಕೇಳಬಹುದು. The session is recorded. YouTube ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ಲೈವ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಉಂಟು. ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ದಿಸ್ ಸೆಷನ್ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ನೋಡಬೇಕು ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ನೋಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತಿದ್ರೆ ಅಥವಾ ಅವರ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿಗೆ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು ಲಿಂಕ್ ಅಂತ ಇದ್ರೆ ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ಲಿಂಕ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಆಸ್ಕ್ ದ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಚಾಟ್ ವಿಂಡೋ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಕೇಳುವ. ಅದನ್ನ ಮತ್ತೆ Q&A ಸೆಷನ್ ಆಗುವಾಗ ನಾನು ಓದಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೇನೆ ಅಥವಾ ಅಟ್ ದ ಎಂಡ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಆಸ್ಕ್ ದ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಟು ಸುಹಾಸ್. ಈ ಸೆಷನ್ ಆದ ನಂತರ ಫೀಡ್ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಒಂದು ಕಳಿಸ್ತೇವೆ ನಾವು ಉದ್ಯೋಗ ದೀಪಿಕಾ ವಾಟ್ಸ್ಆಪ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಫಿಲ್ ದ ಫೀಡ್ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್. ದಿಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಅಸ್ ಇಂಪ್ರೂವ್ ದಿ ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್, ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ವೆಬಿನಾರ್ಸ್. Today's agenda is welcome and a brief intro about Udyoga Deepika, and then we will go through speaker's introduction. We'll go to the topic. Suhas S will talk about get ahead with effective preparations for about 30 to 40 minutes, and then we will have Q&A and conclusion. I would like to thank this month's sponsor for the event, Shri Prashant G. Rao. He's from Yellur, son of late Guru Raj K. Rao. He has been an active member of Sabha and Career Development Committee for many years now. He lives in Houston with his wife Ranjini and children Dhriti and Omkar. He works for Deloitte, and Sabha would like to thank Prashant for his contribution for the sponsorship for the month. Udyoga Deepika is a monthly webinar program. A few like-minded community members came together and they got an idea about conducting webinars, bringing together the resource persons, achievers from a community, and have webinars so that all the community members will be benefited. This will help the community members to learn on the topic, on various topics from achievers. And also this creates an opportunity for the community members who are achievers or who have learned a lot about some particular topics to share their learning. The concept was designed and executed by Career Development Committee of Akhila Bharata Sthanika Brahmana Sabha Bengaluru, ABSBS Bengaluru. Symbolically, Udyoga Deepika was inaugurated on 11th January 2020 during Vishwa Sthanika Sammelana, organized by Sthanika Brahmana Mahamandala, Mangalore. So on the right, you can see Udyoga Deepika team. We are around 15 members. Till now, we have conducted 9 sessions since inception. In February, we started with Subramanya Rao Nattoja presenting on fastest growing career opportunities. And then after that, we had various sessions on entrepreneurship, opportunities, changes in life, family bonding, personal finance, exams and interviews, legal aspects, perspective on COVID, new education policy by various speakers like Subramanya Rao, Guru Raj Rao, Dr. Shaileja Shastri and Dr. Sandeep Shastri, Bhagyachandra Rao, Pradeep Kumar P, Harish Kumar MS, Murali Joshi, Dr. Vishal Rao and Dr. Sandeep Shastri. We are happy to have Suhas S for the 10th webinar in this series. Suhas S is currently studying his final year BTech in IIT Madras in mechanical department. Suhas is the son of Shri Rai Satish Kumar and Daya Satish Rao, who are both bankers by profession. They have been active members of ABSBS Bangalore for a long time. Suhas secured 95.66% in class 10th in ICSE. He secured a rank of 283 in JEE Mains and 1064 in JEE Advanced. He was awarded 2-time provisional fellowship from KVPY. He was qualified for Indian National Chemistry Olympiad. He was also a city topper in an event with over 36,000 participants, and he was state level runner-up in mythology contest. We are happy to have you, Suhas. Thank you for your time. Over to Suhas now. Suhas will talk on get ahead with effective preparations. for the next 30 to 40 minutes. I request all to be muted, and at the end of the session, we will have Q&A. Suhas will answer, and we have a couple of questions already in place. And after that, we'll make audience open to ask the questions after unmuting. Thank you. Over to Suhas. Suhas, you can share the slides now. Suhas. Suhas, can you hear us? Okay. I think you are muted. Ninna unmute ಮಾಡ್ತೇನೆ. Just give a minute.
Suhas is still on mute.
Yes, I asked him to unmute. Prashantana, can you unmute him? Can you check once?
ಅಡ್ಮಿನಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಟರ್ ಅನ್ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕನ್ಸ್ತದೆ.
Yeah, Prashantana ಮಾಡಬೇಕು.
Yeah, I have unmuted Suhas, so he should be fine.
Hello.
Yes, Suhas.
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. My laptop's mic is a little dysfunctional. 1 second. Hello. Hello.
Yes, Suhas, we can hear you.
Suhas, you have kept your two devices audio on. If you can mute one and only use one, then it will be all right. Can you try that? Now both are muted.
Yeah, is it good now?
Yes, this is good now.
Right. I actually joined in from my phone initially to get the connection right, but then I think that messed all things up. So I'm sorry about that.
No problem at all.
My audio is clear, right?
Yes, Suhas.
Yes,
You're good.
yes, very much. You can switch on your video also, so that.
Yeah, I will. Yeah. Is it there now?
All set.
Okay, sure. Hello and a very good evening to everybody. Sorry about all the technical glitches. Yeah, so let me just start off with my presentation. Right. So, first of all, Good evening to everybody. I'm Suhas, here to talk about how to prepare for competitive entrance exams, especially for admission to undergraduate courses. Something that I have been through, so I thought I could probably help people who are going to be getting into this phase of their lives. So thank you to the Sthanika Sabha to have reached out to me and given me this opportunity, first up. Secondly, I'd also like to thank my family before I start off for their support, constant support. That is the key. They've always been there. Not that I've had any difficulties or hardships. So I need to be very clear about that. It's not like I've had any difficult phases, but then they've always been there as constant supports. So something that I'd really like to appreciate and thank. My parents, of course, being the primary supports, and then my brother, who's been an ardent admirer. So that gives an additional motivation to set an ideal and perform to inspire other people well within your family. So that's another person I'd like to thank. So yeah, about acknowledgements, that is my parents and my brother. So moving on to the topic, preparation for competitive entrances. Now, let me just give an overview to those who are uninitiated. This is what you would, understand about JEE if you were to gist it out very simply. I'll try and keep the content very simple, nothing very technical, so that people who are not really going to attempt it any time in the near future, or who are just here to convey messages to their children, should be able to do so. I'll keep it simple that way. So for an overview, these are a few stats and then the system of how JEE works. That's the exam that I've really put in efforts for during my 11th and 12th. There are other entrances, of course, like NEET or CET, which I will give generic tips or, insights into, but I do not really have real experience when it comes to NEET. And as far as CET is concerned, I don't think there's a lot to be discussed about it, but yeah, I'll probably touch upon it whenever I can in the later part of this session. So coming to stats, I think this is something a lot of people would be familiar with. JEE is one of the most sought after entrance exams by people who are graduating from secondary school, higher secondary. And it gives you seats in IITs and NITs. There are two levels, JEE Main, JEE Advanced. JEE Main, of course, is the qualifying entrance to NITs, and then JEE Advanced is the next level, which you can attempt only if you clear JEE Main, that is. Something that a lot of people again would know is that the figure for the number of takers for this exam is about 10 to 15 lakh people. That's a lot of people, and the number of seats that you have in IITs on offer is just about 10 to 12,000, and this is without considering the kind of reservations that are there in place. It's about it's about 50% roughly. So yeah, that's a lot of reservation, and I believe most of us here on the session fall under the general merit category. So it is no doubt a cutthroat competition, but then yes, there are a few things that can help you prepare better and do better, basically. The current system, I think this is from 2019 onwards, JEE does allow you 2 attempts each year, one in January and one in April. Back when I did attempt this exam, that is in 2017, there was just 1 attempt each year. So you have to wait a full year before you gave another shot at the exam in case you did not do well or fail to qualify. And the good part about this 2 attempt scheme is obviously it takes into account both your performances and gives you a rank based on the best of the 2. So that's a good thing. And then JEE Advanced obviously has a very random and what do I say? Not very uniform scheme of marking. It does not follow the same pattern each year, which is what makes it very difficult and unique in its own way. So that is something that you will have to understand deeper if you were to talk about JEE Advanced. But as far as JEE Main is concerned, it's quite a straightforward scheme of marking. There's a +4 -1 type of marking where you get 4 positive points for getting an answer right and a negative point for attempting each question wrongly. So that is what it was. I think there's a new type of questions that is integer type that has been added to JEE Main, if I'm not wrong. I'm not too sure about the marking scheme there, but yeah, this is the generic scheme of marking as far as JEE Main is concerned. So that was an overview. Now moving on to things that could possibly help. Basically tools that you could use or other things that could help you out in this journey if you're trying to attempt the exam. The first thing is obviously books. What books should you consider is something that is very essential to know. One thing for JEE is like you have to know your way out with NCERT textbooks for PCM, physics, chemistry, maths. And this is very simple because JEE Main, the only thing that they focus upon is NCERT questions, which are there either in the textbook or in the 8 textbooks that they provide, the exemplar books. So you need to know your way through NCERT. There is really no getting around it. You cannot bypass the NCERT and still go ahead and do well in your JEE. I'm not saying that you need to do well in JEE Main to perform well in JEE Advanced, but then it is very essential that you do well in JEE Main. Part A, because you really cannot predict the future, so you don't know if you will actually do well in JEE Advanced. Not to be a naysayer or a pessimist, but you really don't know. That is why you need to really focus on JEE Main before you set your target to JEE Advanced, first thing. Secondly, when you do prepare for JEE Main, you need to understand that getting a good rank there serves you 2 purposes. One, it ups your morale. You're really confident about whatever exams you're going to take from there on, first. Secondly, it also assures you of a good seat in a good course at a good college. NITs are definitely not bad colleges. So you have that assurance in your mind while you attempt your JEE Advanced. And confidence is a very key player when it comes to any sort of exam for that matter. So if you're confident about how you're going to perform, if you're confident about yourself doing well, that really ups your chances in any game or exam for that matter. So NCERT is of the essence, first thing. Second thing, I don't know. I mean, this is a very subjective and personal view. But the thing is, a lot of people do not really prefer NCERT textbooks for physics as far as explanations are concerned. Simple reason, they keep it very to the point. They think that a teacher is going to be there in the college or in the school, depending on what board you are in, that term will change. But basically, they think that there is a teacher who will help you out with the concepts. But sometimes that isn't really the case because, not every college or every school can offer you that sort of insight or that sort of in-depth understanding which you would really require to be able to master or get a grip on the subject. So for that, one reference book that I have been advised to and I found really useful was The Concepts of Physics, Part 1 and Part 2. Those books come in 2 parts. The Concept of Physics textbook for 11th and 12th Physics by H.C. Verma. So these are 2 texts. As far as references are concerned, you could use practically anything. Of course, they need to be of a standard quality if you're aiming for really cutthroat competitive exams like JEE. You can't, rely on something very simple or something very easy. It's not a bad idea to do that, but that is not going to give you the sort of exposure that you require. To gain some initial confidence, it's not a bad idea to start off with simple content, but then to be able to gain hold of a subject, you need to expose yourself to difficult questions, to difficult concepts, wherein you'd actually fail a couple of times, but then you'll have a better understanding of the subject at the end of this. So that's about textbooks and references. Coming to topics. What topics should you possibly study when it comes to the 3 subjects that you'll be tested upon? For maths, why I'm covering this key topics section is simply because that is something that can help you study better, because you know that, okay, if I have these topics in my bag, then it's going to make my exam a lot easier. And these topics, if you can look at the screen, and if you've actually started your 11th and 12th, you know that some of these topics are really the simplest topics you could come across. They don't really have a lot of intuition in there. I mean, not intuition in the sense that logic, obviously, mathematical logic is an intuitive subject, but it doesn't require too much of understanding or too much of thought to solving a question there, because there are some basic rules, there are some steadfast facts that are never going to change, and that can be applied easily for any question that comes in from those topics. The reason why these topics are key, I call them as, is because these topics are really easy in some sense, depending on sort of mentality and the sort of study pattern you have. But in a general case, these topics would be considered very easy. But then these also have a pretty high weightage for the sort of difficulty they have. If you compare the weight that these topics carry versus the effort that goes into preparing for them, it's really very high. The weight is very standard. There will be about there's 6 plus 3, 9 topics listed out there, and you'd have around 4 to 5 questions from these topics in their respective subjects. So that's basically 5 into 3, 15 questions straight away given to you out of the total 90. All right, that's a sixth of your paper without you really spending too much time. Each of these subjects, as far as those topics are concerned, can be covered within a week at best. It should not take you 3 to 4 days if you're putting real efforts and you're trying to prepare correctly. But even if you are a little relaxed, you know that this is the lockdown time, there's still probably more than a month to go to the exam, and you're still not certain if the exam will be conducted or not. In such situations, you might take it a little laid back. But whatever you do, these subjects these topics wouldn't take more than a week per subject. So they give you 15 into 4, 60 marks straight out, which makes it pretty good. All right. The topics are listed: mathematical logic, vectors and 3D geometry for maths, dimensional analysis, electromagnetic waves and communication for physics, and similarly for chemistry, biomolecules, polymers, environmental chemistry, and chemistry in everyday life in the 12th standard textbook. So these are topics that are more of your, as far as chemistry is concerned, these are topics that fall under the category of rote learning in some sense. I'm not a fan of rote learning, but then why not, right? You're getting really cheap marks. I mean, they're throwaway. If you consider effort as a means of pricing in an entrance exam, these come at a throwaway price. You don't really have to spend too much effort, too much time on these topics, but you will still get marks for those topics that you've prepared, right? And one subject that I would really focus or emphasize upon for these sort of entrances is probably chemistry. Something you guys might find surprising if you are in the 11th and 12th classes and preparing for these entrances, because generally you would find your teachers saying, you know what, prepare for maths, that'll help you in physics and chemistry. Prepare for physics because that is a crunch subject where a lot of people fail, and if you do well there, it will give you a straight ticket to the higher most layers of ranks. But you know what, all of that is true. I will not say any of that is false, but why I regard chemistry as paramount when it comes to these entrance exams, I mean, any exam for that matter, be it NEET, JEE or CET, chemistry, I would say, is the most important subject. Because chemistry really does not require the sort of effort that goes into maths or physics, because there are some things that are really intuitive and very, very specific in maths. You need to understand the subject, you need to understand the concept, and you need to have a good tutor for that. In some cases, failing which you wouldn't really be able to grasp that concept, and because of which you will definitely feel a little shaky, a little, not very confident there. And same is the case with physics, because physics is about what you see in the real world. But on the other hand, for chemistry, it is a lot of speculation. I mean, you really don't know quite a few things. You don't know why a reaction happens the way it does. I mean, you can say that, yeah, there is exergy, energy, whatnot, but those things are still just speculations at the end of the day. And these are things that don't really change much, because once established, these facts don't undergo a lot of changes. And as far as NCERT is concerned, consider them as static. They really don't undergo a lot of change. And it's very less intuitive in comparison. It's more about your memory. It's more about how much you can recollect, how much you can remember. So this is something that will give you an edge if you have these topics and this particular subject under your belt, because you know that these questions you cannot go wrong. If you know it, you know it, and if you don't, you don't. It's as simple as that. It is very, very binary. There is no way that you know a topic in chemistry and you screw up. Yes, there are a few things like physical chemistry where it is very similar to thermodynamics and physics and all of that. But the subject overall, be it organic chemistry or inorganic for that matter, they're very chilled out in that sense, where you know that you cannot go wrong if you know the topic. But as far as physics is concerned, while you are calculating some sort of value for, let's say, the force or acceleration of an object, you might make calculation errors that can cost you the answer, right? But that is not going to be the case when you say things about biomolecules. Let's say somebody asks you to name what biomolecule has this sort of structure. You cannot go wrong on that. You either know the answer or you don't. But there's no question of you getting the answer wrong, right? So that is why I say chemistry is a very key subject, first thing. So that was about subjects and topics. The other section is how do you practice for these papers? Of course, if you're in a coaching center, then you would have, if you're in a coaching center, you'd have a lot of assistance from your center. But failing which, the best method for you to practice is to get previous year papers. The years that are listed out there in the 90s and the early 2000s, that's primarily for JEE Advanced. It's not really for JEE Main because that wasn't an entrance back then. But anyway, as far as JEE Advanced is concerned, the 90s papers and the early 2000s papers are really considered as classics because that was the time when IITs began rising into prominence and getting that sort of demand that they currently have. That's where it all began. And that's when people started setting really difficult papers, and there used to never be a screening test, right? Like there was a period in the mid and late 2000s where there was a screening test before the actual IIT entrance. And then from 2013 onwards, there was a JEE concept where you have main as your screening test and advanced as your final test for admissions into IITs. But back then, there was no screening test and there was a fair bit of demand because IITs had risen to prominence. So those are the papers that are considered classics. So if you would really want to practice and study, those would be the papers that I think anybody who's been through these entrances would recommend. Okay. And as far as gauging the situation is concerned, now there have been these constant changes in portions, and there's a change in portions due right now because of this pandemic situation where people are planning to reduce the burden on students by omitting topics and all of that. So in such a case, the best thing for you to do would be to go through the last couple of years, the papers that have been set. You have multiple sets, right? In JEE, you get 3, 4, 5 sets. So those kind of papers you can go through to assess the conditions that are currently being followed, the sort of pattern that is being followed. That will give you brief insight. It will not really be very full in the sense that you would be able to assess what topics will be thrown at you, but at least you will have a rough idea of what sort of difficulty, what sort of sections will be covered in a paper, and what sort of weightage will be given to each particular section that is covered. So those are things as far as preparation is concerned. In the case of students who are not really in the coaching regime, and when it comes to optional parts, these are not things that you really need to do. As far as previous year papers was concerned, that is, I think, part of your regime if you're in coaching center. So that is why I did not really include those guys who were part of it. But immaterially, all of you would have at some point prepared using previous year papers, right? Even if you were in the coaching center. But these are things that are kind of optional. These are things that nobody really forces upon you. And it's not really necessary, but then definitely very helpful. The things that I've listed out on that slide, for example. Other exams, KVPY, PITSAT, those are exams that can really help you. KVPY, I say that because it is an exam that is fully online, and it went fully online before JEE did. So if you want to really attempt the online format of exams, you should probably try out KVPY. right? If you're not very comfortable with the non-pen and paper based exams where you have to sit in front of a computer screen, you cannot look at the whole question paper at once. So there are a lot of complications for students who are used to the conventional way of writing exams, right? So for those guys, KVPY would really be a great help, because that will help them understand how they can get through the computer-based exam. Of course, there is this mock test that JEE offers on its own website. That is obviously there, but then it is something that you would not really take seriously because you're at home. I'm saying this to a general student. I'm not saying this is the case with everybody, but I mean, most of us would tend to do that. When we are back in the confines of our home, at the comfort of our living room, we really not want to take the exam very seriously. We just try to play around, right? So you will not really realize the importance of the timer on your screen. You'll not realize how many mistakes you're making while marking options, and so on and so forth. So that is something that you can really work on if you take the KVPY exam, because you'll be in an actual exam setting where you'll be with your peers sitting in a room with a timer of 3 hours. So that is something that will really help you. That's one. And the good part about KVPY is it also gives you another option. For example, IISc, right? If you get a professional fellowship, they directly give you an offer to get a seat in IISc, which is quite a premier institution. I mean, that is that had been for quite some time the #1 ranked university across this country. So yeah, that's there. And also it does have quite a few good questions. It's a fairly high level exam. It's not very CET like. I don't really mean to demean CET, but it is not really at the level where JEE is, right? So KVPY will really help you in that sense, where you'll be taking a real exam which has questions similar to JEE. So it's not like your mock test where you're not serious. So if you're taking these exams, try and be serious about it. Even if you do not wish to join in IISc or do not wish to do well in do not really have aims to do well in KVPY, right? So take these exams seriously. They'll help you assess your own condition. And the other thing that is optional but quite useful is derivations. If you really try to memorize formulae, that's a good thing if you're able to memorize all of them. But you might end up making errors once or twice, which can cost you heavy, because each mark is really fought with a lot of people, right? It's about 100 people in the early 2000s for each mark, and then as you progress towards the latter zones, you will probably lose 1,000, 2,000 ranks per mark that you end up losing. So those are really key. So you don't want to make mistakes in the formulae that you are memorizing. So having derivations is a good thing, because then you would never make mistakes. You can really cross-check when you have the time. And in case you do forget formulae, if you have the habit of forgetting important things, then it's a good thing to know the derivation to a particular formula which is really important or essential, right? So that will make it easier for you to solve a given question in the topic that you are remembering derivations for. That's one thing. And the other thing, it also gives you a completely new level of confidence, because you know that, you know what, I cannot make a mistake in this topic because I know derivations in and out. I know these concepts. So derivations also help in reinforcing the concepts that you've learned in some way. Okay, so that is about tools and possible other mechanisms that you can resort to in order to help your preparation. Now, the last thing before we move on to questions from all of you guys, some very frequently asked questions. I've done a couple of these sessions back in the coaching center I studied, and I'd gotten these questions from my juniors, or these questions were prompted by my teachers and so on. So these are some of the questions that are really asked pertaining to these entrance exams. So the first one, which I get very frequently: how many hours in a day I used to study when I was in 11th and 12th? Simple answer: doesn't matter, right? It really doesn't matter, or it shouldn't matter, right? each person has his own way of studying, and each person is different in his or her own way, right? How I prepare for an exam shouldn't really decide how you prepare for it. Similarly, how your peer prepares for an exam shouldn't really affect how you prepare for it. Okay. What you should actually focus on the other hand, is what concepts do you cover? What topics do you cover in a given time frame? Yes, the whole idea of having a time frame is important. Say 5 days, I study these 4 chapters, 3 chapters, whatever goals you have. So for that, you can compare with your peers. You can say, oh, you know what, this guy studied 2 chapters in 5 days, so I'll have to study 2.5. That is healthy competition. That is good. But then when I say you study concepts, I mean to say that you know them thoroughly, at least for that period during which you study, right? So that is important. That's about a very brief answer to how many hours in a day I used to study. That really shouldn't matter to anybody else. It's not like I'm trying to guard this as a trade secret or something, but it really shouldn't matter. And when it comes to the next thing, people ask quite frequently, do we really care about coaching centers, or are we supposed to bother a lot about it? As far as JEE Advanced is concerned, I'll reserve my answer for that. But when it comes to JEE Main, CET, these are entrances where it shouldn't really matter. All right, coaching centers really don't play a role. I'll be very honest. I did attend coaching centers, but the point is, they really don't help you there, because, like I said, JEE Main or CET, just work with your NCERT. As long as you can help yourself with that, and if you were preparing for JEE, then you'd also require SE Verma or some sort of guide to physics, because NCERT is not very, very good at explaining concepts without a specialized tutor. But yeah, you should be able to manage it on your own. When it comes to JEE Advanced, I wouldn't say that coaching centers are essential, even to that, but you do require a sort of guidance mechanism which is always there for you, ready for you. And this is something that is not very easily available. I mean, if you have somebody, a sibling or someone who's actually doing, who's actually a couple of grades higher than you, is probably in the second year of engineering or third year of engineering, that guy might be able to help you out. But otherwise, those are things that are not really readily available to you. So you need to actually take up some sort of online classes or something where there is teaching assistance available to you all the time. So that is for JEE Advanced. And when it comes to NEET, I'm not really an expert, but physics and chemistry, as far as I know, are pretty much like JEE Main from the NCERT, that is. And for biology, I really have no clue because I did not prepare for it. But I think it would be similar to JEE Advanced. That is my view, but I'm not too sure. So I wouldn't like to mislead anybody on that. So I'm not too sure. I'll give it. And lastly, when it comes to specific tips, if I had any from my personal experience, as far as preparing or attempting the exam is concerned. One thing that I would say for preparation is that prepare hard, all right? It's not necessarily hard in the sense you toil for 12 hours a day and all of that, but prepare with sincerity. Do not be jovial while you are looking at the book. You know, just look at the book for an hour or an hour and a half if you want to. But then while you do so, do not have distractions. Do not check your phone for WhatsApp messages. Do not look at the TV for a show that you want to watch. Don't do anything. That is one thing. The other is that before the exam, this is. The other that I would like to say is when you're preparing, be optimistic. Be as optimistic as you can. Think that you can really top the exam or whatever is your mind's capability when it comes to optimism. But once you've prepared completely, once you think that, yes, I've gone through all the chapters, all the topics that were listed for the syllabus, then conduct a reality check. Try the most difficult paper you had found while you had practiced. Try it out completely, setting a timer in a very secluded zone where people do not really disturb you, and take that full 3-hour attempt sincerely. Once you do that, you will have a clear idea of where you stand. And then from there on, if you are really nowhere close to, even passing marks, that is about 80, 90 out of 360, right, for a general merit student. If you're nowhere close to passing marks, then not to be pessimistic, but realistic, you don't stand a chance. You need to prepare all over again in a separate manner, in a manner different from what you've already tried. Because you're bound to lose the game, because, come on, you are not able to get qualifying marks, then you've got to be truthful to yourself. It might sound harsh to you, but that is the reality. You cannot lie to yourself while you are at the verge of giving an entrance and say, oh, you know what, you'll do it. That will not work. You have to be realistic. You have to be harsh onto yourself sometimes in order for you to perform better. Maybe in your next attempt, if not that attempt you're trying for. And when it comes to the exam, all things said and done, preparation over, you're in the examination hall. Just live in the moment. Don't think about what you could have done better when it comes to preparation. Don't really keep worrying about the result. Live in the moment. Look at your computer screen. Just take it easy. Solve at your pace. There are a couple of ways of attempting the paper. One is the top-down conventional approach, where you just follow the order of questions that has been thrown at you. Or the other way is you schedule for yourself a list of topics that you would rank higher up in your order of preference and would like to solve first. Both of these are two different approaches, but then this is again a preparation point of view. Try both of them while you prepare. But once you have set it up in your mind and once you've found out which one is comfortable for you, do not change that while you're attempting the paper, because that at the best will just create confusions. For the worst case, there's really no limit. You can actually keep going down, right? So decide on how you want to attempt the paper beforehand. Test both these methods out. Be sure of what you want to do, and do not try to customize or randomize things while you're attempting exams. This is not your candy house where you can just, say, can you give me that flavor? Can you give me this flavor? Those are not things that you do in an entrance exam. If you're serious about it, that is. So you need to be very clear. You need to be steadfast. But again, do not take too much stress, because, at best it is not going to harm your exam. But, in the worst case, it can actually impact the way you take the exam, impact the way you think during the exam, and so on and so forth. So those are the adverse effects. So be very clear and have a predefined strategy, which is not simply based on, okay, Suhas the other day was talking and then he just said whatever he had to say, so I'll just follow this strategy. Or some other peer of yours whom you really believe in has said this and you're like, okay, I'll follow that man's strategy. That's not how it should work. You've got to have your own mind. You've got to have tried whatever you have to try in the phase of preparation. But once you're through your phase of preparation, do not try to randomize or customize things just because someone else gave you advice which sounded funky or cool. That is not how you should do things. Once you've decided what works for you, once you've tried and tested every method in the book, be sure of what you want, and that is how you should go ahead with the exam, with a very cool, composed, calm head. So that is about it from me. Thank you all for being a very patient and calm audience. I'm open for questions, but just one request. Please don't call me sir and all of that. I'm just 20 years of age, so that just feels like a lot of seniority. Not that I mind it. It's respect at the end of the day, but yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I think
I'll stop sharing my screen right now.
Yeah. Before we go, I think you gave very good tips about what to refer to for the exams and where to practice exams. And the takeaway points are you have to build the confidence to write the exam. When you have to be dedicated, you have to give dedicated time for the preparation. There must be no distractions at all. One has to be very, very optimistic when he wants to attempt for an exam. Next thing is he must not compare or imitate the study of his peers or somebody else. He can have his own style. So you have to be cool and composed and without confusion when you go to an exam. I hope I covered most of the points, but yeah, it was a very nice session. Thanks a lot for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Let's go to the question and answers. We have a couple of questions from the audience. First question is, what is the difference between JEE basics and advanced? And should I take both to get into an IIT?
Right. So, like I had stated previously, there was this system of IITs having their independent entrance and NITs never having an entrance. That was back in the 90s. And then in the 2000s, there were two separate entrances. But then from 2013 onwards, these two have been combined. And that is why JEE is called JEE, Joint Entrance Examination. Right? It is an exam combined for both NITs and IITs. Okay. So JEE Main is the screening test for IITs now. What used to be the screening test back in the late 2000s. Okay. So you have to take both the exams if you want to get into Indian Institutes of Technology, right? You need to attempt both of them. And as far as NITs are concerned, JEE Main alone will serve the purpose. So I guess that's about the question. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, sir. So, the next question is, I think you answered that well. The next question is about what seats are there for general merit students in an IIT?
Yeah, so the answer to that is very simple. It changes year on year, all right? Thanks to these reservations that the government keeps bringing every day. But as of now, as far as my knowledge is concerned, I think it's about 40 to 45%, because there's around 25% seats reserved for scheduled caste and tribes, that's SCSTs, around 15% and then there's 14% per section reserved for female students, and now there's a new 10% thing for economically weaker sections. So at the end of all of this, it should be between 40 to 45% is what I think it is. But again, that is very dynamic. It also depends on if they're giving these reservations on the existing seats or they're adding seats for the reserved candidates. In both the cases, the percentage will not actually vary, of course. Another thing that I would like to add before we move on to any other question is that, not so that I receive more questions here, but something that is a real helper when it comes to preparations is that don't hesitate to ask questions. I mean, I'm not saying ask what is 1 plus 1, but try and reach out to whatever mechanisms you have to answer questions. Maybe a web search on Google or any other platform that you can think of. That is not a bad idea to get preliminary answers, but then do not hesitate to get doubts cleared. That is something that is very important. I mean, your teachers are there for that job and you've paid the fees for that very purpose. So don't really think twice before going to a teacher and asking him, sir or ma'am, what's the way to solve this, or what's the way around this particular concept. That's another thing that I probably missed out during my presentation. But yeah, that's really important.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Sure.
What is the percentage cutoff for IIT?
Cutoff, there's never really any sort of percentage. Okay, that is not to the best of my knowledge, but that's a true thing. Okay, so this is something I'm very sure about. There's no real percentage as such. It is simply the number of students that they wish to eliminate or filter, whichever, right? So if there's 50 lakh students someday, they still can take only 10,000 students. So that percentage keeps varying. It all depends on how many students are appearing for the exam. And if you're talking about percentage in the question paper, that is obvious, very, very obvious that you cannot really put a number on it, because you never know how a given batch will perform. One given year, there might be a batch which will all get, 60%, but another year there might just be people getting all 40s, 50s. So it depends on the performance that given year. It depends on the kind of paper that is set in the given year. It depends on how many people are appearing for the exam. There's a lot of dynamics behind it. But one set percentage which I can give for JEE Advanced, which is a good benchmark. Depends on, you'll have to attempt previous year question papers and all of that. But if you can consistently keep up the 60% margin, 55-60% margin, then there is hope. That is a good place to be in. That is what is about JEE Advanced. And for JEE Main, say what, 75 to 80%. I think that's a number that is really good. these are numbers that I'm giving for really good performances. You can obviously improve in the due course of time. You'll have 2 attempts in JEE Main, and then you'll have another month and a half break for JEE Advanced. I'm not talking about this particular academic year, because here it's very uncertain, the situation. But under normal circumstances, you really have space between the attempts that you'll be allowed. So yeah, it depends year on year, but I think 55 to 65% range is where it is considered a good place to be in for JEE Advanced, and 75 to 80 for JEE Main, if I had to give numbers based on personal experience.
Thanks, Suhas. Suhas, I have a question in 3 parts. First thing is, if one gets a newer IIT with electrical or old IIT with mechanical, which one should I take? Second part, is there a possibility of grant after the first 2 semesters?
Okay.
Is that can I get major degrees in 2 departments?
Sorry, what was that? The last part?
Can I get a major or minor degrees in 2 departments, mechanical as well as electrical? Can I?
Right. Got that. So coming to the first part, choosing between a new IIT and an old IIT, which have different departments. So yes, I would say, my personal preference would be towards the older IITs, simply because of the kind of heritage that they come with, the kind of demand that they have, all right, the kind of peerage you would find, right? Because let's say an IIT Dharwad, you would find people with ranks between 15 to 20,000. Those people, I wouldn't say are bad students, I wouldn't say they're not capable students, but it is just that the kind of environment that you stay in, right, that will really make a difference at times, first thing. And once the IIT is established, for example, IIT Hyderabad is definitely not a bad place to be in if you're getting a good department there, simply because it has a fully functional campus now, all right? So your hostel facilities will be really great. Okay, that's on the lighter note. It's not very serious. The other thing is that you don't really have to worry about the teaching, right, across IITs, because it's not that people hire specifically for a given IIT. You do have professors being hired and then changed between IITs and all of that. You have visiting professors, people coming in from other institutions across the globe. So those are things that are obviously there across IITs. So it doesn't really matter what IIT you choose in that way. The first thing is you need to be clear. This answer is a little long. I'm sorry about that. But the thing is, you need to be very clear in your head what you want. Do you want the tag of a more established IIT, or do you want a department or course of your choice, right? These are two different things that may or may not fall in place together for you, right? Depending on your rank, that is, of course. So if you have that sort of a choice to make, you must be clear in advance, right? Not the entrance exam, but I'm saying beforehand. You need to be clear beforehand as to what you want to do. Do you want an electrical engineering degree or a metallurgical sciences degree? Right? If you were in a situation to choose, you should have that in your head. If you're very clear that no, you don't want meta and you want elec only, then it doesn't matter. Okay, very frankly, I'm telling you, it doesn't matter what institution you choose. You have to choose the institute where you're getting the course that you want to do. It doesn't make sense for you to do a course that you don't like, right? So that is the first thing. Second thing, if you're very particular about a given college, right? In that case, you need to be sure that you make it to that college. It doesn't matter what department you take, simply because, yes, that is the second part of the question where you say there is branch change available, all right? It varies from IIT to IIT. In the case of my institute, IIT Madras, we have a branch change option right after the first semester. In the case of IIT Bombay, it is after the first year. So it is an aggregate performance of 2 semesters, right? So that system will vary, but there is always a branch change option. Okay. It's not very easy to get branch change options because a lot of students will be aspiring for it. But again, if you can clear JEE and you can put that much effort towards it, it shouldn't be a bad idea if you're very specific about an institute, right? If you are very specific about, let's say, IIT Madras, and you have metallurgical sciences as the best option you have, then it is not a bad idea to choose that institute, go ahead and get a branch change done, right? So that is about it. And lastly, coming to the minors and majors thing, yes, there is options across IITs. It does not vary. You have options to get minors enrolled, but just that mechanism is not as seamless or simple as it would be in, let's say, the US or any part of the Western world. But yes, IITs are probably one of the most advanced institutes when it comes to education policy. So they give you the ease of getting registered into minors and all of that without a lot of hassle. So yeah, there is minors, and they don't really care what branch you are in. So you can be in biotech, and you can get a minors in CS or whatever. So yeah, that is there. I guess I've answered the question.
Yes, sir. Thanks a lot. I think that answers. We have a question. How much time will be available for the exams? I think how much time?
I'm losing your audio, Rakesh. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, but then it's not very loud and clear. So that's the only problem.
Yeah. How much time do we get in the JEE exams to answer?
I don't know. I think there is a correction here. Somebody has texted me privately saying it's only 75 questions now in JEE Main. Okay. So if that is the case, then you have 25 questions to attempt per hour, and if you roughly calculate that, you'll have around still about 2.5 minutes per question. Okay. So that's about JEE Main. And JEE Advanced, it's a general trend. Like I said right at the beginning of the presentation, there's never a fixed pattern in JEE Advanced. All right, that is what makes it very cool and prestigious, both ways. All right, it's very reputed for that very reason, that you can never really predict what exact topics would be asked, and what sort of weightage will be given to topics, and the order in which they'll be proposed, and all of that. So yeah, when it comes to JEE Advanced, it's just a rough number. I can never really specify a number to it, but then on an average, it's about 3 minutes a question in JEE Advanced.
Okay. Thanks, Suhas. Suhas, next question is, I think we will take 5 more minutes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Next question is, I heard that the coursework in IITs are very, very tough. Can I survive? And how did you adapt to the change situation?
Right. When it comes to change in situation and all of that, I really don't think there will be a lot of change. Yeah, you will probably find other people, answering questions a little more seamlessly than you would find your peers in school or college. And that is to general students. There might be a few students enrolled in schools or colleges where competition might be very stiff. So I'm not talking about those places, but normally when you come from a school or college, you wouldn't have a lot of people answering the most difficult of questions. But here you will find a little higher percentage of students giving a try, being very serious and trying to attempt questions. So you will find that bit of change. But then, like I've always said in the presentation as well, it doesn't matter what your peers do. You should try and learn from them if there's any positives that those guys have. But again, their method of functioning or their presence in class shouldn't affect you. You should try and do whatever you were doing earlier as well. There's really not much of a need to change anything as such. And as far as coursework is concerned, I am not too sure about these newer IITs. But I think they'll also be similar because we do have common professors and all of that. But the point is, coursework is pretty relaxed. There's really no stress. One good thing about being in an IIT is that you have the option to choose up to 50% of your courses depending on your interests, which is a great thing. All right. There's about 400 credits. This is a separate credit system. So for those guys who've actually done an engineering degree in another college, they might get a little surprised that this man is talking about 400 degrees and 400 credits for a degree. But yeah, we have higher credits for each courses, which makes it very easy to distinguish courses those with little weightage and all of that. So that's a thing about the credit system, but that's really not answering the question. When it comes to answering the question, it's that we have around 50% electives, which means we can choose what courses we want to do depending on our interests or depending on the kind of market requirement. Let's say everybody is running towards machine learning or data science or whatever, you can do courses there as well. So that way coursework is very relaxed, it's very chilled out. So yeah.
Thanks, Suhas. I think that answers. If somebody wants to ask the question, please unmute and you can ask the question directly to Suhas.
1 second before I ask. I think there's a question here on the chat which says, can we do change majors in between? Can we do double majors? Yeah, as far as changing majors in between is concerned, that is the branch change option, Atul. You're allowed to change the department that you want to call as your parent department, and that, like I said, differs from IIT to IIT as to when that branch change is offered. And double majors, not really. You can have a minor and a major. There's no double major system, as far as I know.
Yeah, thanks, Suhas.
Sure.
Anybody wants to ask the question, please unmute and you can ask the question directly to Suhas. I think there are a lot of students in today's audience. We have one question that came to me on my WhatsApp. You may have friends who are studying in colleges in Bangalore or anywhere else. So they may be your previous classmates, right? So how do you think your experience in IIT helped you when compared to them?
Well, one very simple, straightforward reply to that would be the weightage of that tag. All right. There is no way that anybody can deny the weight of an IIT tag. That really is very helpful. Something that one of my teachers in some course actually said during one of our lectures is that, you know what, you guys don't need to stress out when it comes to leading life ahead. Yeah, depending on what sort of success you require, you might be required to put efforts that way. But as far as life is concerned, just leading a good to go life, right? A well-to-do life, the tag will suffice. You'll never die of hunger. That is something which is a very, very important morale booster. You know that, you know what, this IIT degree is always going to help you. So that is one very clear advantage, which I feel is the case, like my professor from a course actually said. And the other thing is that reaching out to professors is a lot more convenient over here, because most of our professors have this requirement where they need to have completed a PhD. And generally, these guys are very knowledgeable, very experienced veterans of their subject. So when you approach them with a question, they don't have difficulties. They don't really have any problems with you approaching them, and they'd be more than happy to clear your concerns, whatever they may be. So that is one thing which I feel is a difference. This I'm talking about in comparison to my friends. So they may not be in the only ways of measuring, right? They might not be a very standardized unit of measurement where I can say, okay, in comparison to them, this is the case. So that would be the case across India. That might not be true, but since the question was framed that way, in comparison to my friends or the people I know over here in Bangalore, I think that is another clear difference which I can find. That professors are very willing to help. Professors are very open, and they're ready to reach out anytime. And the kind of knowledge that they have is always a key difference.
Yeah, I think it's a very nice answer. We now have better insights about what a life in IIT is. Thanks a lot, Suhas.
There's one question which says IITM is offering degrees online for the first time. Is it really worth joining it? I don't know, man. Personally, I have not done any courses online, so I can't really tell you if it is a good thing or not. All right, but if it is being recorded by a professor who is, from IIT Madras, more likely than not, it would be okay, because now we've also switched to the online way of teaching, and some of the recorded lectures that are shared with us for our internal purposes, they're actually quite good. Yes, it does get boring. Okay, if it is not an interactive class, you cannot ask doubts immediately, and you have to sit through a 15-minute lecture. That might get boring. But as far as the content is concerned, as far as the way of teaching is concerned, I don't think that will change. Right? Me as a teacher, I'll continue to teach the very same way that I'm used to, or the very same way that my students are used to. So if a professor from IIT Madras is teaching it, it will not be very different from what he would do in Insti. That's basically lingo for institute. What he would do in Madras versus what he would do online. That would not change drastically. So yeah, if you have an interest in the degree or the course that you are planning to register for, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and do it if you are really willing to. I hope that answers the question.
Thanks, Suhas.
Thank you.
I think there are no other questions. In that case, I'll hand it over to Vidyaranya, who is the chairperson of Career Development Committee of ABSBS Sabha Bangalore. Over to you, Vidyaranya.
Okay. Hey, thanks, Rakesh. Suhas, first of all, I would like to congratulate you for all the achievements, what you have done so far. We all know that, getting a seat in IIT is not so easy. It's a dream for many, but, only few get selected, right? So, we are all are proud that, one of our Sthanika member, is studying in IIT Madras. Not only that, the kind of maturity that you have shown in the entire discussion, right? It gives us a lot of confidence that if someone uses this opportunity, he can really make a lot of cut among a lot of other professionals as well, right? You look like any other professional in an IT or non-IT industry for me. So congratulations to you, and we all are proud of you, Suhas.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot for the kind words.
And I would like to take an opportunity to thank you for taking time in between your, other preparations and other study. So, it's really great to have you in this Udyoga Deepika forum. And I would like to take an opportunity to, thank Bhojraj, who has, in fact, suggested me about you initially, and I should thank him for giving your name and suggesting your name to be part of this Udyoga Deepika program. Thanks to you all. I'm sure a lot of young students as IIT aspirants have joined today, and they got an opportunity to learn a lot from you. Wish you good luck, and we would like to interact with you more. And if there are any individual requests from any of the students for a kind of focused group discussion with them, those who are aspirants for IITs, maybe 5, 10, whatever the number, right? So at any point of time, we would like to reach out to you for give more tips for you in person or in a small group of people. Okay? So,
definitely.
Okay. Once again, for joining this, and I take this opportunity to thank all the participants today, and of course Mr. Prashant for sponsoring this month's webinar course, and all our other senior members who participated in this program. Thank you all once again. Good night.
Thanks a lot. Thank you to everybody who made this possible, and of course my family.
And thanks to Rakesh for moderating this session. Thank you everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Vidyaranya. Before we finish, we have something to say from the Career Development Committee. So, if some student or need any support like industry internship, please reach out to Career Development Committee. We would be very happy to help you in that. Yeah, thanks a lot, Suhas, once again for your time. And this was the 10th webinar. I would say this was a very fruitful one. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks
Pleasure.
all. With this, we will end this session.
Cheers.
Thank you, Suhas. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Suhas. Good one.
Thanks a lot.